Manchester United news and transfer news. I hope you're doing well this morning. I'm doing well this morning. My head's not doing so well. I had a few beers last night, but you know what? I do have no guilt towards that. I think we've achieved something that at the start of the season I felt was out of reach, and we've done it. And there's a few home truths I want to talk about that a little bit into the show. Some bad behaviour, I think, from a minority of United fans again last night, trying to be self-righteous, trying to be the big top Reds. I don't agree with any of that. We'll talk about that in a minute. But more important things, I think what I would say straight off the bat is that if you are a winner, you get up and you go again. You might have a hangover, you might have a headache, but you don't waste time. And look, there's no need to do tactical breakdown of yesterday. I can summarise it in a sentence. We won. It wasn't even a sentence, it was 2 words. We won. It wasn't tactical masterclass. It wasn't, you could never look at that game and say Ollie schooled Brendan Rodgers. I think we won that game because we ground out a win. And I think that is absolutely fine. We move on. But more importantly, I think to spend any more time celebrating today would be somewhat ridiculous. I do agree with that. I'm very happy today, but I feel motivated today. Now is the time to go to work. Last night you celebrate third. It was third. We want better than that. I love the words of Bruno Fernandes, who said that this team can believe, can be more confident, and we can be even better now. And I think that's what it is. You celebrate last night. Today you go and do more, which is why I'm a little bit late this morning. It's not because of the hangover. I was speaking to my guy, who I've not spoken to for about 6 weeks. Now, obviously, you know, we've had Fabrizio Romano, Christian Falk. We've had some really good people on this show, and we've got relationships with those people. But as you know, over the last sort of 18 months, there's been somebody that I've spoken to. I hadn't spoken to them for a while. I spoke to them before Romano, actually, and he said basically what Romano said. So I spoke to him this morning about the situation with Jadon Sancho, and effectively talks now begin for Jadon Sancho. There's 2 updates I can give you around Grealish and around Sancho. Around Sancho, look, I suppose some of it's common sense, but it's also nice to get it verified. Talks now begin for Jadon Sancho. Now, I've seen some people saying that Sancho deal will be done this week. Sancho deal's already done. No, it's not. It's not. The only thing I would take about that is that Dortmund are meant to be back in training on Thursday. I don't know what training Dortmund are in on Thursday because, as Christian Falk said last week, the main part of their training starts on the 10th, which isn't Thursday. So I don't know what Fjortotov is talking about, but he does have links in with Dortmund, to be fair. He's saying, will Sancho turn up? The reality is the talks begin today for Manchester United and Borussia Dortmund. They haven't started before because Manchester United didn't know whether they had Champions League football before, and they didn't want to get into some sort of negotiation for something they didn't know whether they had the money for. The talks with Sancho, done. Sancho wants to come to Manchester United. Any doubts about Sancho wanting to come to United have been absolutely obliterated by yesterday. If he fancied Chelsea, well, we finished third, they finished fourth. United have done everything they needed to do to prove to Sancho that they are the right project for him, and he favoured that project anyway. So now it's about the Dortmund deal. So the latest with the Dortmund deal is this. United will start talks today. There may have been some talks before, but the proper negotiations start today. United have got the money. Dortmund know United have got the money. The disparity between the value of what Dortmund put on him and what United want to pay for him is somewhere between 30 millions apart. You know, I think Dortmund ideally want 110. I think United ideally don't want to pay any more than about 80, 85. So that needs to be negotiated. And I think that personally, this can go one of 2 ways. And my guy said, look, if I'm betting on this, I don't think he's going to be a United player before the Europa League final. He said, look, at the end of the day, the transfer window's open till October the 5th. The Bundesliga, I don't know when that starts, but the Premier League doesn't start till the 12th of September. So I said, you know, look at Manchester United. They have improved in the transfer window, but have they improved their negotiation tactics? They spent a lot of time on Bruno Fernandes. He said, you know, that game against Burnley, you said it yourself, Mark, they could have had Bruno for that game, and those 3 points would have meant you could have had a far easier final day. They didn't. They wanted to save a few million on Bruno, and they did. And it could have cost them top 4, which has basically put them 70 million in their pocket. They gave up 3 points against Burnley to not get the Bruno done quick. They wanted to negotiate it. And he said, I don't see anything different. In fact, he said, you know what? I do think Sancho will come to you, but I would not be surprised if United messed this up and walked away from it. He said, I don't think they can do that. And I think they realise they can't do that because the outcry will be massive. But he says, I certainly would bet that they're going to take a while on this deal. So anybody saying the deal's done this week or anything like that, I think, look, if United do that, I'll high-five them. That'll be absolutely stunning. But expect a long and protracted deal for Sancho, weeks, not days. So that was the update on that. Also on Jack Grealish, I asked about that, and he said, look, the Grealish one, I mean, he told me at the start of lockdown, I don't think you're going to go for Grealish anymore because Pogba's going to stay. And then he said, I think you will. I think you will go for Grealish because I think Ollie really, really likes him. Mark, I'm glad we had a tough game yesterday. I think it will show these players they can win in a big game even though they don't play well, says Akil. Exactly. And woke up this morning feeling fine. Got Champions League football on my mind, says Dylan from Cork. Lovely stuff. And welcome to Mark Saunders, latest member of the United Stand Members Club. Thanks for everyone who's joining the club, by the way. Seeing on Twitter, United fans arguing over Bruno and Pogba. I've been guilty of this myself, but why can't we just be happy, says Sean Turner. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I think there are a few home truths that we need to take on board as a fan base. And the clowns won't take it on board, but I think it's some disgusting stuff amongst our fan base. But we'll talk about that in a moment. Let's stay positive, because I believe we do need to be positive. So on Jack Grealish, what's the situation? Well, speaking to my guy this morning, and he said, actually, he normally always gives me something. He said, on Grealish, I just don't know what you're going to do. Ollie definitely wants him. Grealish, I think, does want to go. But now Villa have stayed up, it's really muddied the waters. And he said, I wouldn't be surprised if United back off the Jack Grealish deal. Not because they don't want him, but because Villa are going to act all, quite rightly. They've got power now. And United are already dealing with Dortmund, who've got a lot of power. That Grealish deal is not an easy deal. If Villa got relegated, United get Grealish. That's what I was told this morning. Villa go down, United get Grealish, because he's 100% going. He 100% wants to go, and the club would 100% let him go. Plus, they're losing money, so they'd let him go for about 40, 50 million. He said, now, does Grealish 100% want to go? I think if he has to stay at Villa, it's his club. He's not that bothered. Does Villa need to sell him? No. Do Villa want to sell him for 50? No, they'll want 60, 70. He said, I think, again, it's only an opinion, but he says, I think that United will not get Grealish, even though they really, really want him. Because it's a long and protracted, expensive deal for United to do. And that's exactly what they're doing with Sancho. So, he said, I just don't know. And especially when, look, he said, he said you weren't in for Van der Beek. That was a PR story. But actually, Van der Beek is available for about 40 million quid. Easy deal to do. Ajax want to sell 40 million for Van der Beek, 60 to 70 million for Grealish. And actually, who really suits Manchester United better? Well, Van der Beek's younger and actually can play more positions. So he said, logically, I think United will go for Van der Beek. But he said United really do like Grealish, and he does tick that box of young British talent ready to make the step up. He said, I just think it's going to be a too hard a deal to do Grealish and Sancho. So we'll see what happens on those. But look, I don't know what you think. For me, I do like Grealish. But if we ended up with Van der Beek and we saved a bit of money, I'd be happy with that as well. Mark, you've been absolutely phenomenal too. Love the show. Proud member. Hopefully we can catch up over a pint soon once COVID settles down. Says Abby. Yeah, well, we will be doing the Dublin get-together as soon as everything's okay. Is there any news with players going out of the club, says Genwell? Nothing on that. I can't give you anything on that. I mean, look, to be honest with you, in relation to transfers, it's going to really escalate now. Effectively, the transfer window is open. But as my guy said, he said, don't expect United to just go out and sign 3 players this week. They are still going to take one deal at a time, and they are still going to, protract things, because that's what United do. He says, it would be a major turnaround for Manchester United to start doing quick deals. He said, the talks start today with Dortmund, and they will start today. But he said, look, if those proper talks are starting today, Harry Maguire 6 weeks, Wan-Bissaka 6 weeks, Bruno Fernandes 6 weeks. He said, Jadon Sancho, the biggest signing of the summer, you think you're going to get it done in 6 days? He said, nah, that's going to take a long time. It really is. The only way that will be happening quick is if Dortmund want a quick deal. And he said they'll want the money. As for players who got relegated, I saw somebody just on about Nathan Ake there. Anish says, Nathan Ake, I don't want Josh King. I don't want Josh King. That's all I'm going to say. I watched Match of the Day last night and I remembered the name Josh King. And I thought, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer loves Josh King. I don't want Josh King at Manchester United. I don't want Josh King. That's all I'm going to say. Mark, does this guy have knowledge or just opinions, says Joshua Harper? No, this is somebody I've been talking to for 18 months, Joshua Harper. This is somebody who's very credible in the football journalist world. I'm just not going to tell you who it is because that they don't want me to tell you who it is, because obviously I'm spurting information that if I tell you the name of the person and it doesn't happen, it makes them look wrong. Have they been on the show? Well, anyway, did you guys know Mark predicted United took 3rd place back in March? I don't think he's told anyone, says Modder Girl. I didn't predict it in March. I did predict it in March actually, because lockdown. I'd say more April, May, but it was definitely there. Is there any news with any players going out? I think, to be honest with you, I just want to talk about a couple of other things first before we talk about players going out there. Getting Champions League really gave us a financial boost in terms of the business to do from today, and winning Europa will give us an even more boost, says Burhan. So look, I do really think, I want to talk about De Gea and I want to talk about players going out as well. Please smash a like on the video if you're watching and subscribe if you are new. I want to thank everybody who watches the shows, by the way. I thought yesterday was just one of the memorable days I'll always remember doing the United Stand. There's been 2 or 3 really memorable days doing this. Well, 4 actually. Signing Schweinsteiger was just lovely. I loved that. It was 11 o'clock at night. We were early days of United Stand, and I always loved Schweinsteiger. And I know it didn't work out, but that's one of my favourite shows. Europa League final, when we'd won it, we just stayed live for ages, chatting. It was great. I loved it. Yesterday, I absolutely loved it. I loved the whole day. I know it was tense, but I loved the fact that we achieved something, and I think it's a big, big step forward. And I quite liked the day when we got rid of Mourinho as well, if I'm absolutely honest with you. The only worry with Grealish and Van der Beek, will they want to come and sit on the bench? Same with the striker. I see Josh King 100% hammering, says Sean Turner. I just don't think Josh King's good enough. I think it's a step backwards. Mark, you predicted 3rd. I doubted it a little, but then I self-assessed a little bit and realised there is something in it, and I was on your side. Really glad that you got the prediction right. You're a legend, says Sam. It's just a prediction, so I mean, I'm not, it sort of brings me into what I wanted to talk about. I really want to get into the De Gea situation because De Gea has now broken Peter Schmeichel's clean sheet record playing in front of a shitter defence. And I want to talk about that because Roy Keane's been saying, get rid of De Gea again. And I think it feeds into this agenda that we seem to have within our mainstream media, some ex-players, around players that aren't, from the youth setup. I don't get it, but we'll talk about that in a moment. But Aki in for Lindelof. PSG for me was a nice celebration, but I don't look back on that night with any affection. It was a nice moment. I'll look back on yesterday. I look back on the Europa League with real affection, and I loved it. I don't look back on that PSG game with any affection. Like Marcus Rashford said, that we got knocked out next round. It didn't stand for anything. We didn't achieve anything. We went to Paris. We parked the bus and we had a memorable result, but we were out next round. It doesn't resonate long term for me. Sky Sports saying Barcelona want to sign Deleu, says Dane Grayson. Yeah, those sort of deals need to be done quite quickly. But let me just say this. I saw last night a lot of joy, a lot of happiness in the United fan base, definitely in the United Stand community. And what I would say is, if you don't like the United Stand and you don't like the United Stand community, don't watch it. It's very simple. But what really surprised me last night, but didn't surprise me, was these, I would call them circus clowns, really. Basically, people attacking United fans. Oh, if you're ever been Ollie out, F off. You're not a real fan. Oh, self-righteous stuff that if you couldn't see what Ollie was doing when it was going bad in autumn, you don't know what you're on about. You don't deserve to support United. I just think, look, you can't have your cake and eat it. I mean, some of these people, they want to eat their own cake and everyone else's cake. But at the end of the day, I don't get this mentality. I really don't. Like, you cannot have your cake and eat it. The reality is, I did say we'd get 3rd in lockdown. We might have got 4th. I'd still be very, very happy. I did predict it, but, it's a prediction. My biggest prediction has been going on for 18 months. Sign Bruno Fernandes. Sign Bruno Fernandes. All last summer, the videos are there. Sign Bruno Fernandes. Sign Bruno Fernandes. We didn't do it. And I was like, wherever he goes, if he goes to Spurs because they nearly got him, we're gonna really, really, really regret that. We bought him in January, and he's the reason we're sat here in 3rd tonight. No, nothing else. No tactical swing. No long-term vision that people pretend they saw in autumn. Bruno Fernandes is the reason Manchester United got 3rd yesterday. Everyone else has responded to him. Look, having a number 10 is the key thing here. It's not an individual. It's just getting the right player into the right position. We were 14 points. I'm going to give you a stat here. The most important stat you'll ever need to take away. We were 14 points off 3rd place when Bruno Fernandes came into this club. We finished 3rd within 4 months. 14 points. Now, yeah, Leicester have dropped points, Chelsea have dropped points, but Manchester United have been unbeaten since Bruno came into the team. Let's not dance about the bush, right? The reality is, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer could well have been sacked after the Burnley game and not many people would have complained. That's the reality, right? But let's take it away from Ollie here, because these people who are trying to be self-righteous and, oh, I was never Ollie out. I could see the seeds of what was going to happen at the end of the season when we didn't have Bruno. We were playing Lingard. We were playing part of the bus defensive football. I could see we were going to end the season like this. Could you? Could you really? Did you know we were going to sign Bruno Fernandes? Did you know that was going to make us play better? Did you know he was going to abandon playing counter-attacking part of the bus football? You talk out the arse you're speaking from. You really, really do. The one-upmanship, the top-redism, the self-righteousness to sit there like people did last night, some, and go, if you were Ollie out, you're not a fan. If you couldn't see what he was trying to build in autumn, you're not a real fan. What a load of nonsense. Why can't we just as a fan base sit back and enjoy the moment and actually highlight the biggest issue here? It's not about whether you're Ollie out. It's not about whether you're Ollie in. Let's not forget, Manchester United fans who go home and away were at grounds in January booing. Yeah, they were booing the wider club, the running of the club. They weren't booing Ollie. They were booing some of the players. But fans in the ground, the best fans in the ground, were booing. So are those people who are now going, I was always Ollie in, I could see this happening. They couldn't see anything. You couldn't see it happening. That's why people were very fed up in January. Bruno came in and spun it around. Now, Ollie gets the credit for bringing Bruno in. Ollie gets the credit for building a team around Bruno. Ollie gets the credit for the tactics, and his coaching staff does. And we've all given that credit. But you cannot have your cake and eat it on this one. Why were fans booing in the ground in January? Why were we so crap between August and January? The reality is, go back to the United Stand video on transfer deadline day last year. Me, Flex and Rant sat there and went, we won't get top 4 with this team because Ollie's been let down. He's going into this season with 2 arms tied behind his back. He hasn't got enough depth in the attack and he hasn't got enough depth in the midfield. What happened between August and January? He didn't have the depth in the midfield and he didn't have the depth in the attack. What happened in January? He got a striker and he got Bruno Fernandes to add to what he had, and everything changed. So everybody who said at the start of the season we're going to struggle to get top 4 because he's been let down in the transfer window, high five yourself, because that's the only prediction that's been proven right. The club very nearly sacked Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. That's what happened. They sent him out into this season ill-prepared. They sent him out with a breadstick sword and no shield. And he battled, and at times we got some good results, but it was hard to watch. We weren't well equipped. And in January, they added Bruno Fernandes in, and Agallo's played a bit of a part, giving us a bit of depth off the bench as well. But they brought Bruno Fernandes in, and that's what changed this season. So for these people who just want to say, if you couldn't see what was happening in autumn, you don't know what you're on about. I saw what was happening in autumn. I tell you what, he was going to be sacked, and Pochettino would be the manager now. If they hadn't bought in Bruno Fernandes in January, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wouldn't be our manager, and we wouldn't even be in the top 6. It's as simple as that. That's not Ollie's fault. They've backed the manager in January, and now we're seeing the rewards. That's why the club need to back the manager now again, because there are still issues in that team. We're not going to win the title next year with this squad. He needs 2 or 3 players, and he needs 4 or 5 players out, and he needs to be backed this summer and next summer, and that's what needs to keep happening. But let's not be that fan base that starts attacking each other because you were Ollie in all along and you could predict this was going to happen. You couldn't have predicted anything. You couldn't predict what time you're going to have a piss, let alone that we were going to turn around how crap we were in autumn to be third now. Because there's one player and there's one bit of business that's turned that around, and it's Bruno Fernandes. And many of you, like me, have been talking about that signing for 18 months. So if anyone wants to predict anything, Bruno's was the prediction, and if you wanted Bruno last summer, which most of you did, you were right. The club stumbled on the Bruno Fernandes deal, and they very nearly cost Ole Gunnar Solskjaer his job, and they very nearly cost us top 4. They've got to not do that again. If they're thinking about, let's not get Sancho because it's too expensive, look at the absolute car crash you nearly caused with Bruno Fernandes. What if he'd gone to Spurs last year? It was that close, and we backed off because we didn't want to pay the money. What if we'd not got Bruno Fernandes last summer? Well, we didn't. But what if he'd gone to Spurs? We're very lucky. The club made a massive, massive error not getting Bruno Fernandes last summer. They rectified it in January. They deserve the applause for that. But that's the fine margins, and that's why we are where we are. That's the only prediction that matters. Mark, should we look at David Alaba? World-class left-back and centre-back. He wants out and he's in his prime at 28. There's your left-footed centre-back and cover for Luke Shaw, says Michael McGarry. We definitely do need cover at left-back. I think we do, yeah. I think we do. And I think that these are things that we'll be able to talk about over the next few weeks. There are vulnerabilities in that squad. I mean, Garth Crooks says Harry Maguire's in the team of the year. He's not the captain for me anymore. I think Bruno Fernandes needs to be captain. If he can come in, if Bruno Fernandes can come in when we're 14 points off third and we can be unbeaten every game that he plays in the season and get third, that's your captain. You know, I don't need a weatherman to tell me it's raining. I need Bruno Fernandes as captain. We seem so vulnerable when defending corner kicks and so harmless when taking them. Can't this aspect of our game be fixed, says Simpson? Well, it should be with a player like Harry Maguire in it. I love what Ollie said about how it's up to the board to get him the transfers he already asked for. Now the pressure is on them. Look, I tell you what. We're going to do the season review tonight with Ricky and Adam and Saeed, and it's going to be very interesting. But for me, the reason it's very easy. You don't need to overanalyze this. Look, I don't believe in absolutes. Can I just say this? Whether you're Ollie in or Ollie out, I don't do that. 5 years has proven that. I did go LVG out. I did go Mourinho out. And look, I did say after the Burnley game, I think Ollie's going to have to go. Then we got Bruno, and I was like, right, let's see what happens here. That's the player we should have got in the summer. I don't really like to be... I think... in life, you should always have bits of both. You should always be able to see both sides. Remember Mourinho shows? A lot of you went Mourinho out very quickly and you were proved right, but I kept giving him a chance. Way longer than he should have been given. I kept thinking, you know, he's still a good manager. If anyone can turn this around. But I didn't want to see the warning signs like many of you did, and you were right. But you should always assess things. I don't ever... Personally, in my life, I'm never stubbornly, I'm sticking with that. I'll always try to give somebody something, a second chance, I suppose. So I think. Look, I've never known the fan base so happy and positive since the Sir Alex days. That's a real positive thing. But I think that previous comment about what Ollie said about transfers is spot on. If you want to assess this season, look at what happened in January. You had Ed Woodward's house being attacked. You had fans booing and getting very, very fed up. You had the team on its knees. That Burnley game was the lowest point. Solskjaer, you know, the club were talking to Pochettino. You know, that's a fact. So, and now we're in this great position. You've got to look at the season as a whole. And for me, it's very easy. You can talk about the bad tactics. You can talk about Bruno coming in. You can talk about Pogba being injured. You can talk about the brilliance of Martial and Rashford at times this season. The re-emergence of Matic in the latter half of the season. Luke Shaw's consistency. Wan-Bissaka's consistency. David De Gea's up and down form. There's lots of ups and downs on the season, and you're going to get that. But the one thing I would say is this. The season really would not have been as stressful if we'd just bought Bruno Fernandes last summer. I don't know that we would have finished any higher than third, actually. Would we have had enough? I think we would have pushed City for second if we'd had Bruno all season. But we never would have been in the state we were in, having to beat Leicester on the last game of the season or draw with Leicester. The club nearly cost Ollie his job. And they need to take that on the chin. They need to look at this season and say, we messed up big time not getting Bruno Fernandes last summer. We could have done that deal and we nearly missed out on that deal. We were very lucky to get him in January. We should have done it. And that's the story of the season. You know, you can moan about this, that and the other, but you can say, oh, pissed off if you're Ollie out. You can say, oh, I've always been Ollie in, whatever. The reality is Bruno Fernandes was the deal that should have been done last summer and the club stumbled and they can't stumble again. We see... I want to talk about David De Gea. Mark, if Chelsea get Havertz, we'll already be 3 signings behind and they will now go defensive players while we still try to sign Sancho, says Fittrick. Well, again, we're talking about the club, aren't we? What a fantastic finish to the season. So happy. Shout out to my wife, Maria. It's her birthday today and what a way to celebrate. Maria! Happy birthday, Maria. No, but in midfield and defence, maybe look at Sanderberg and Christopher Ayer. Not expensive. What do you think? I do like, Turge says Sanderberg. I do like Sanderberg. Congratulations to Zayn Massey. We will get our FA Cup and rebuild for next season. Let the war begin. Mate, I've got to be honest, Zayn. If you win the FA Cup, fair play. But Arsenal are not Manchester United's rivals. We're looking up. We're not looking down. If you want to be our rival, you're going to have to do everything that you need to do. But we're not looking down anymore. That's done. The Chelseas, maybe they're going to be our rival next year. But the Spurs, the Arsenals, forget it. You're gone. You're in the tracks, and that's you're in your dust behind us. I don't want to see it. What I do want to talk about is David De Gea very, very quickly. David De Gea has broken Peter Schmeichel's clean sheet record, right? Now, Peter Schmeichel was at Manchester United for roughly around the same time as David De Gea. I think David De Gea has been there a little bit longer. Peter Schmeichel played in front of world-class defenders. David De Gea has spent most of his career playing in front of people like Phil Jones, Daley Blind, Marcus Rojo, Chris Smalling, Harry Maguire, Victor Lindelof. I don't think any of those are world-class centre-backs. And yet David De Gea has broken the clean sheet record that Peter Schmeichel had. Roy Keane yesterday, and some of you have said it's time to go for David De Gea. David De Gea has broken Manchester United's clean sheet record. He's only 29. This goalkeeper is not a situation we need to focus on. Now, he worries me. He really does worry me. But Manchester United, he's 29. We can get David De Gea back to being the goalkeeper that he is. He is not a player that needs to be thrown around. And everyone who says, oh, I'm not convinced by De Gea. Look, I'm worried about De Gea at the moment. But at the end of the season, we finished third. He's broken the clean sheet record. He still can be one of the best goalkeepers in the world. And I think that we need to stop looking at agendas that don't need to be looked at. I said it yesterday about this Martial thing about, oh, in a year's time he'll be forced out of the team by Greenwood. Martial's probably just, I mean, we're going to talk about it tonight, player of the season. He's definitely a candidate. He's definitely a candidate. I just think we need to love these players more. They've all played a part this year. You know, Fred's played a part. I know McTominay's played a part. I know they didn't play a part in the last 6 weeks, but they've played their part. David De Gea's played his part. And I think that looking at transfers, we've spoken about the situation with Grealish and Sancho and what's going to happen over the next few weeks. But replacing the goalkeeper is not a deal we need to be doing this summer. David De Gea will be here next season. David De Gea will be our number one next season, and we need to support that. Left back, Luke Shaw's going to be our left back. If we can get a backup left back, we need a left-footer. Brandon Williams, I think, can be a very good player for United, but he's never going to be a left back because he's too right-footed. Same with Fosu Mensah. We need a left-footed left back, and I don't think we've got one coming through. So we need a left-footed left back. We need a centre back, 100%. We need a centre defensive midfielder. We need an attacking midfielder, and we need a right winger like Jadon Sancho. So that's 4 or 5 positions there. And also there's talk that we need a striker as well, which I just don't know. I don't know who we're going to look at as a striker, because for me, Timo Werner was available for 50 million quid. Maybe he didn't fancy sitting on our bench or fighting for a place. Is there any truth in Romero's exit, says Sarang? I think if Romero goes, Dean Henderson will come in and they'll fight it out for the number 1 shirt. I think that's a mistake. I think Dean Henderson and David De Gea are too good to be sitting on a bench at Manchester United. They're too good. Their first team. I mean, Dean Henderson at one point was a consideration for Player of the Year. Player of the Year, not Sheffield United's Player of the Year. Player of the Year. They're too good to be sat on the bench, but there is a problem that needs to be solved there. Mark, as finishing 3rd and 4th means no need to play Champions League qualifiers. Also, if Wolves win Europa, there would be 5 teams in Champions League. No worry for Chelsea, says Andrew Chow. And look, the Europa League for me is, I'm just going to enjoy these next few weeks with you on the United Stand, talking about transfers, watching Europa League games, preparing for next season. I don't feel relaxed. I feel happy. I think that yesterday was symbolic. I don't want to celebrate it anymore, by the way. It was very much about last night. We got 3rd place. We should get better than that. We should be better than that. But that's a significant step. Now let's go to work today. Let's get these talks with Dortmund going, because we know it's going to take a few weeks to get the deal done. That's what United do. Let's decide whether we're going for Grealish or we're going to go for a Van der Beek or somebody else, and let's move that forward. Let's get a centre-back in. Let's start moving on Delo and Rojo and Sanchez and Lingard and get some money in. Let's enjoy the Europa League. I think the Europa League, we can enjoy it now. We've got a game against Last Link a week on Wednesday, and then I think the quarterfinals are 2 weeks today. So we've got a couple of weeks where we can enjoy it, get some transfer business up and running, and then enjoy these Europa League games whilst doing some transfer business ahead of a September the 12th start. So it's a great time. I think we parked last season. We'll do the season review at 8 o'clock with the lads tonight. We can talk about it knowing that, I just feel there's a weight has been lifted, but let's get running now. We're lighter. Let's go and enjoy it, because that season is over. It's done. We've completed that season and we got 3rd place. Look, let's not forget, the most significant thing is Liverpool, our biggest rival, won the league. We can't, that has to start coming back into the mindset with Ollie and the board and the players now. Congratulate yourselves. You've shown that you can do it. You've shown that you can take some confidence, and you've shown that you can win and get what you need to do when you're not playing well. That's great. Now get back into your head that Liverpool have won the league and they're the best team in England. They're our biggest rival. That's now the next challenge. I think when you win a race, you will look at your next challenge, and Manchester United now need to look at their next challenge. And, all eyes on the board. As I said, it's all eyes on the board. They cannot not deliver Jadon Sancho. If they don't do that, then, problems arise. Mark, Bruno will be the best player next season. I'm fuming we spent the same on Pepe. Our board is a joke. Yeah, he's a fantastic player, Zane. You're spot on. Pepe might come good next season. It happened with Fred. Remember the Unscripted from BT said we're finishing 6th. Also, Lingard scored the first goal after lockdown in Premier League while the second team was on the pitch. says Shiham. Well, look, thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video. Lots and lots of content coming up on the United Stand. We've got the Premier League review show. Well, not the Premier League. The Man United review show with Ricky, Adam and Saeed tonight. I think that's going to be very good fun because I know Saeed thinks Harry Maguire is amazing, but I'm going to have my say on that. I think Harry Maguire's a good centre-back, but I just don't think he should be captain. I know Ricky's going to say Matic should be player of the year, so it's going to be a great show at 8 o'clock. But look, it's time to go to work now. Well done, Manchester United. Let's enjoy this positivity, but let's take, I always think when you succeed, you need to be even hungrier. We did succeed in top context yesterday. Now let's be hungry. Now let's go and do some business. Because I'll tell you this, and I'll say it once. If we sit on our laurels with that squad, we'll be fighting for 4th next year. That team hit its ceiling last night. It's no better than 3rd. It's no better than 3rd in its current state. We need squad depth. And we need some quality. And we need to remove some of the deadwood. That has to happen over the next 6 weeks. If it doesn't, this team won't progress. So it's all eyes on the board now. It's not Ollie's problem. It's not the players' problem. They've delivered what they could do. I think they've done all they could do this season, especially when Ollie didn't get the players he should have got in the summer. Now it's eyes on the board. Don't mess up another summer. Because actually, when you look at the last couple of transfer windows in the summer, they've not been good. This one needs to be good. And I know we got Maguire and Wan-Bissaka and they were good signings last summer, but they didn't get a midfielder and they didn't get an attacker. They've got to deliver this transfer window. And of course the summer before that was Mourinho's last, where they delivered next to nothing. They've got to deliver. All eyes on the board. Thanks for watching. I'll speak to you all in a bit, and have a good day. And I will be doing some content on here and on That's Football. Speak to you in a bit.